Last week, a patient of mine shared a very moving story about being discriminated as a child while facing obesity challenges. This was during a health check at school in grade 4 when the nurse advised her to stand on the weighing scales and shout out her weight. And as a child in 4th grade, she felt extremely embarrassed shouting out that her weight was 60 kilograms. This was the onset of discrimination and bullying that she faced throughout the years of her life. Obesity discrimination is a genuine problem. We are mostly judgmental. Even healthcare professionals can be judgmental. A lot of people are facing weight-related issues not because they are eating unhealthy or being inactive. I would like to share a brief video about obesity discrimination. It might convince you to consider signing a pledge to fight obesity stigmatization.
People with obesity are not only at risk of serious medical complication, but they also face a pervasive form of social stigmatization and discrimination. Emma knows this all too well. As a child, she was frequently bullied at school and left out by her classmates. Even her teachers had lower expectations from her. Her parents were understandably worried about her and kept asking her to lose more weight. Weight stigma followed Emma throughout her life. In magazines, TV, and movies, she was repeatedly reminded that people with obesity or overweight status are considered weak, lazy, and even less intelligent. They're not just good enough. Emma decided to make a new change in her life. She went on a diet plan and started doing more exercise. Despite trying very hard, she didn't shed a single kilogram, and she started to believe that she wasn't good enough. Even while applying for jobs, she kept getting rejected despite having all the qualifications, and there was always a better candidate who got hired. The stigma that she faced because of her weight led to depression, anxiety, reduced self-esteem, and heart palpitations. She had difficulty sleeping and developed eating disorder, and decided to see a doctor finally. But even here, the consultation was rushed, and the doctor was judgmental, telling her to eat less and do more exercise. As a result, Emma didn't want to go back for any health advice and started ignoring any screening invitation from her doctors. Of course, not all comments related to her health were malicious. Some were well intended, helping her tackle the obesity. However, without the proper psychological support and quick consultations, they were becoming more judgmental comments and having the opposite effect, leading to mental health stress and increased weight gain. Weight stigma is actually a belief that obesity is a personal choice and the people with obesity lack willpower to lose weight, and the common misconception that body weight is maintained by the energy in minus the energy out. This misconception means that you just eat less and exercise more to maintain a good healthy weight. And this is one of the misconceptions provided by certain healthcare professionals to some of the patients suffering with obesity. The current scientific evidence actually suggests that this concept is completely inaccurate and misleading because energy in does not depend on the type and quantity of food that we have, which we can partly control, but also depends on the amount of calories that get absorbed from our intestines, which are dependent on a variety of other factors like digestive enzymes, the microbes in our gut, and certain hormones that our body releases. None of these are under our voluntary control. Typically, exercise and activity can consume only 20 to 30% of our energy intake, whereas 70 to 80% of our energy consumption is by the biological activities happening in our body as basal metabolic rate. We assume that weight is under our voluntary control, but in fact, it is tightly regulated by biological mechanisms in our body. Just like the regulation of blood pressure and temperature in our body, our weight is also tightly regulated and dependent on our body fat mass, which provides us the energy to live. Hence, the regulation of body fat mass is as strict as the body regulates the body's temperature and the blood pressure. Hence, although it may be partly true, but voluntary control of weight is only a minor component of weight management, and biology plays the bigger role in maintaining our body fat mass and the weight. This brings in the concept of metabolic set point, which is tightly regulated by hypothalamus, a deep-seated area in the brain which is not under our voluntary control. Hypothalamus receives a variety of complex signals from intestine and other organs to decide what proportion of energy intake should be retained by the body. This mechanism tries to maintain the weight of the body at a certain level, which is the metabolic set point, and hence eating less or doing more might not change the weight, because voluntary efforts to reduce the weight are followed by compensatory biological changes which actually increase the appetite and reduce the calorie consumption. And almost all weight loss strategies are followed by weight regain. This explains why majority of weight reduction strategies eventually fail, whether it is just diet or exercise alone or certain drugs, because the body tries to resist the change. What causes obesity? Why intake of same type of food and same activity produces different response in different individuals? Our weight is influenced by a complex interaction between our genetics, food quality, sleep deprivation, psychological stresses, and medications. A dysregulation among these factors leads to obesity, and considering obesity a personal choice or a character flaw is oversimplistic approach. This is against any scientific evidence. Scientists in the giant International Consensus Conference on Stigma of Obesity have called for collective efforts to facilitate a new public narrative against stigma of obesity. The group proposed signing a pledge to eradicate the discrimination against obesity and allow access and healthcare facilities to people who have been struggling with weight management and help them lead a healthier life free from discrimination.
After hearing my patient's story, I decided to sign this pledge to stop obesity discrimination. It may make a huge difference in the lifespan for a lot of people living with obesity and facing the discrimination and the judgment. Thank you.